I never thought I'd be that guy. The one writing into a subreddit about his own heartbreak, but here I am. I thought I knew my wife, Amy. We'd been together for years, married for 3. She was the kind of woman who always seemed to have it together, sharp eyes, quick smile, and a way of making everything seem effortless. We had this cozy life, home, dog, decent jobs, nothing fancy but stable. I'd always trusted her, or so I thought. Our housewarming was supposed to be a celebration. Close friends, some neighbors, a few coworkers she'd invited. It was loud, lively, and honestly a good night. Until I saw her slip out the back door around midnight. It was odd. Amy had been drinking, but she wasn't that drunk. Still, she disappeared for nearly 20 minutes. I figured she was checking on the food or grabbing another drink, but when she came back she looked flushed. Not just tipsy, a little too eager to laugh at everything, a little too quick to change the subject if I asked what she'd been doing outside. That night, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she just went to get some air. But I noticed her phone was missing from the kitchen counter the next morning. No big deal, I thought. She probably took it to bed with her, that's what I told myself. But then over the next few days, small things started to pile up. She'd leave her phone face down when she was in the shower. Always a different spot, sometimes on the back of the toilet, sometimes hidden behind a magazine. When I'd ask about her late nights at work, she'd brush me off, say she was finishing projects, working late. I bought it mostly because I didn't want to cause trouble, but there was this gnawing feeling, a little voice in my head whispering that something wasn't right. One night I decided to check her phone while she was out. She'd gone to her sister for the weekend, leaving her phone on the nightstand. I hesitated for a second. My heart was pounding, palms sweating. I told myself to just peek, just see if there's anything I need to know. It's not about spying, it's about trust, right? The phone was unlocked, just sitting there. I hesitated, then unlocked it. The messages made my stomach drop. There was this one. Thread full of secret emojis, flirty texts, and late-night calls, not just casual work stuff. I saw her mention, "Missed you, can't wait, and even next time I'll be waiting." I stared at the screen. My hands felt numb, my mind spun. How long has this been going on? Who was he? I wanted to crush the phone, throw it across the room. Instead, I kept reading. I saw photos, her in the dark, her lips pressed against someone's cheek. I recognized the guy, Jake, my best friend since college. They'd been close, too close. I'd always trusted Jake, always thought he was my brother in every way that mattered. But now I saw everything differently. I closed the phone slowly, hands trembling. My stomach twisted so hard I felt like I was going to vomit. I sat there in silence, staring at the wall, trying to piece together how I missed all those signs. I'd been blind. Or maybe I just didn't want to see. The pieces clicked into place. Her late nights, her secretive phone habits, the way she'd avoid my eyes when I asked about her evenings. That's when I knew. The woman I loved, the woman I married, she'd been lying to me, not just about work, about everything. The trust I'd built my life on had shattered, and I was left standing there, feeling betrayed, angry, and utterly lost. I've spent the last few days plotting. It's not just about catching her. It's about making her understand she can't lie and cheat and get away with it. Whatever she thinks she's doing, she's not just hurting me. She's messing with my head. And I'm done playing nice. I don't have all the pieces yet, but I do know this. I'm going to make her regret crossing me. And when I do, she'll wish she never met me. Next part. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I couldn't just confront her blindly. I had to be strategic. I needed proof, something irrefutable that would hit her right in the face and leave no room for denial. I spent the next couple of days gathering everything I could find. I looked at her phone again, digging through old messages, photos, even her deleted files. I knew I was walking a fine line, borderline obsessive maybe, but I didn't care. I needed to be certain. One thing I found was a receipt from a hotel downtown. She booked it the night of the housewarming, claiming she'd had to stay late at work. But the timing was off. She told me she was working late at the office. The location was suspicious, and the fact that she'd hidden the receipt from me made my blood boil. I remembered the hotel lobby, sleek, quiet, with that faint smell of disinfectant. I'd been there maybe once or twice, never for anything important. But now it was a piece of the puzzle. I also found emails from Jake, sent to her after hours with subject lines like "Tonight was perfect and can't wait to see you again." Reading those felt like a punch to the gut. I'd always trusted Jake, and now I saw that trust was misplaced. The worst part, I knew I had to act before she covered her tracks or spun some bullshit story, because I could already see her trying to deny everything, twist it, make it seem like I was overreacting. That night, I set aside a plan. I decided I'd confront her when she got back from her sister. I'd be calm, collected, ready for whatever bullshit she threw at me, but firm. I'd also record her just in case. I didn't want to go in blind. The key was to stay controlled, not to give her any reason to dismiss my feelings, though I knew she didn't really care about that anymore. When she finally returned Sunday evening, I was waiting in the living room. I could feel my heart pounding even as my face stayed neutral. She breezed in, looking tired but relaxed. "Hey," she said, dropping her purse. "What's for dinner?" I looked at her, trying to keep my voice even. "We need to talk. I found some things about the night of the housewarming, about your late nights, your secret phone, the hotel, and I want answers." Her face flickered. For a split second, she looked surprised, then defensive. "What are you talking about? You're overthinking everything. I told you I was working late. I saw the receipt. I saw your emails. I know what you've been doing," I said, voice tight. "You've been lying to me about everything." She crossed her arms, trying to act calm, but her fingers trembled. "It's not what you think." I was stressed. "Okay, work. Been crazy. The hotel, yeah, I booked it, but it's just, I needed space. I didn't mean for it to get out of hand." "Space," I echoed, voice rising. "You're sleeping with my best friend, Amy. How do you explain that?" Her eyes widened for a moment, then she looked away. "It's not what it looks like, that's just, I don't know what you want me to say." I took a breath. "No, I think I know exactly what I want. I want my keys, and I want the truth. Because I'm done pretending. I've been blind for too long." She hesitated, then finally said, "Look, I didn't want to hurt you. I was just lost. I didn't mean for it to ruin everything." That was the moment I realized I couldn't just walk away from her. Not now. Not after discovering this level of betrayal. I needed to make her understand that her lies had consequences. I knew I had to be careful, though. I didn't want her to spin the story, to turn the tables. I wanted her to see I was serious. I told her I'd be taking some time to think, that I needed her out of the house for now. I didn't want her around anymore, not until I'd decided what to do. She begged, tried to apologize, but I just kept my voice steady. "Get your stuff. I'll be handing over the keys tomorrow." As she left the room, I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief because I finally knew the truth. Anger because I'd been so stupid to trust her blindly. I sat there in the silence, trying to process everything, knowing this was just the beginning of a long, ugly fight. Next part. The next day, I woke up feeling like a weight had been lifted, but also like I'd been run over by a truck. The house looked emptier, colder somehow. Every corner reminded me of her. Her smell, her laugh, the way she used to tangle her legs with mine on the sofa. Now, all I had was this gnawing feeling of betrayal. I knew I had to act fast. If I let her stay even a day longer, she might start spinning her story, convincing herself she was justified. I'd already decided what I was going to do. I wanted her to feel what I felt, helpless, betrayed, and maybe a tiny bit humiliated. I wasn't going to go nuclear, but I needed to set an example. I wanted her to see she couldn't just lie, cheat, and walk away, thinking she'd get another chance. No, this was going to be a lesson she wouldn't forget. I started with the keys. I found her purse on the couch, grabbed her set of house keys, and took them. Then I took her phone, the one she'd used as her secret weapon. I didn't destroy it. I just needed her to understand I had the proof. I wanted her to know I wasn't bluffing. I also made a photocopy of the email chain with Jake, just in case I needed it later. I wanted to be prepared. While she was at work, I spent my morning setting up a little surprise for her. I knew she'd come home expecting her usual routine, probably expecting to smooth things over or maybe even deny everything. But I wanted to hit her where it had hurt. I went to the store and bought a blank envelope, then carefully printed out the hotel receipt, the emails, and a few screenshots of her messages. I slipped everything into the envelope, sealed it, and left it on the coffee table. Not too obvious, but just enough to be found. When she pulled into the driveway later that evening, I was sitting on the porch with a cold beer, just watching her walk in. She looked cautious, maybe sensing something was off. Her eyes flicked to the envelope and she hesitated. She looked at me, trying to act nonchalant. "Hey," she said, dropping her bag. "What's going on?" I stood up slowly. "You tell me. I left you a little something to read." I handed her the envelope. "I think it's time you see the truth for yourself." She picked it up, her hands trembling. Her face went pale as she opened it, unfolding the papers inside. Her eyes darted over the receipts, the screenshots. I saw her swallow hard, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something but couldn't quite get it out. "You lied to me," I said quietly. "You cheated with my best friend, Jake. All those late nights, all those secret calls. I found everything." I took a step closer. "How long has this been going on, Amy?" She looked down, her fingers clutching the edge of the paper. I didn't mean for it to get this bad," she whispered. "I was stressed, confused. I swear I didn't plan for this to happen." I shook my head, feeling a furious heat rise inside me. "You weren't just stressed. You were lying. You took advantage of my trust. Did you even think about how I'd feel, or was that part of the plan?" Her eyes glistened with tears, but she didn't speak. I could see her trying to gather words to justify herself, but it was too late. The damage was done. I'd seen enough. I knew what I had to do to end this. "I want you out," I said finally. "Tonight. I don't want to see you here again until I say so. You're not just cheating on me, you're destroying everything we built. I'm done." My voice was steady, but inside I was boiling. I felt the heat of betrayal, the sting of heartbreak, and a strange sense of clarity. I'd always thought I was a forgiving person, but this was different. This was betrayal of the worst kind. She looked at me with wide, tear-streaked eyes. "Please, I didn't mean for it to get this far. I love you. Save it." I cut her off sharply. "You've lost that right. Pack your things now." I handed her a bag I'd already set aside. "You're not living here anymore, and don't bother trying to call or text. I want no contact until I say otherwise." She hesitated, then quietly grabbed the bag. Her shoulders hunched as she headed toward the door. I stayed rooted to the spot, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut but knowing I'd done what I had to do. As she left, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. Once she was gone, I locked the door behind her and sat down heavily on the couch. I stared at the envelope, now sitting on the table as if it were some twisted trophy. I'd done it. I'd taken control back. But the ache in my chest was still there, gnawing away. I realized right then, trust was gone, forever, and I didn't know if I'd ever be able to forgive her or myself for trusting her in the first place. But I knew one thing. I was done with lies, betrayal, and pretending everything was okay. From now on, I'd be the one in control. Next part. The house was eerily silent after she left. I kept staring at the door, my fists clenched around the keys and envelope. My stomach was twisted into knots, and the room suddenly felt too big, too quiet. I'd thought I'd feel some kind of relief, but instead, a dull ache weighed heavy on my chest. It felt like I'd just lost a part of myself, and maybe I had. I poured myself a stiff drink and sat on the couch, replaying everything in my head. How I'd missed the signs, how I'd trusted her so blindly. The worst part, I kept thinking about Jake, my best friend, and how he'd betrayed me too. That bond I thought we had, could I still call it that? Or was it just another lie? I knew I needed to do something. I couldn't just sit here and stew in my own thoughts. I had to take control of the situation. I needed to make her regret what she'd done, but I also had to be careful. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't just going to let her walk away and forget. I decided I'd take a little time to plan my next move. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. No, I'd take this moment, and I'd turn it into something she'd regret. I wanted her to realize she'd lost not just her marriage, but her best friend too. That's when I remembered something I'd hidden away, something I'd kept from her, just in case I ever needed leverage. In the back of my closet, behind a box of old clothes, I kept a burner phone. I bought it months ago, just in case I ever needed to make a clean break or get out of a sticky situation. I'd never used it until now. I grabbed it, turned it on, and started setting it up with a new number. I didn't want her tracking me, and I didn't want her knowing my next move. The plan was simple but effective. I'd start sending her little messages, not threatening but enough to make her uncomfortable. I'd also reach out to a few people I trusted, mutual friends, her sister, to get a sense of how much she'd told others and maybe even warn them in advance. I didn't want her spinning stories or turning her lies into some kind of victim narrative. I shot a quick message to my brother just to vent and get some advice. Need to talk, I wrote. No details, just a simple message. I also fired off a few texts to a couple of close friends who knew us both. I told each of them I'd be taking a break from everyone. I didn't want her to find out I was planning anything or worse, try to interfere. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction as I set everything in motion. I was taking back control even if it was just little steps. I knew she'd be curious or maybe even suspicious when she'd see the messages. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted her to feel watched, to feel the pressure mounting. I wanted her to realize she'd messed up big time. As I sat back down, I thought about her again, how she'd look right now. Probably furious, maybe trying to spin her story to someone, spinning her lies to make herself look innocent. That thought made me clench my jaw. I refused to let her manipulate everyone into believing she was the victim. I'd make sure the truth came out, no matter what. The night stretched on, and I kept coming back to one thought. I'd never let anyone lie to me like this again. I'd rebuild, somehow, stronger, wiser. But for now, I'd keep my distance, let her sweat it out. She made her choices, and now she'd have to face the consequences. Next part. The days that followed felt like a slow descent into chaos. I stuck to my plan, sending little messages from my burner, watching her reactions from a distance. I didn't want to make her panic outright, just enough to stir discomfort. I knew she'd start trying to spin her story, maybe even confront me or Jake to muddy the waters. But I was ready for that. I wanted her to feel the weight of her lies. I kept my contact minimal with friends and family. I didn't want her to suspect I was orchestrating anything, and I needed her to think I was just giving her space. Meanwhile, I was gathering everything I'd need when the moment came. Photos, screenshots, proof, whatever could serve as leverage if I decided to go further. I'd already taken her keys, her phone, and the evidence, but I wanted to be prepared for anything. One evening, I was sitting in my living room, cold beer in hand, when my phone buzzed with a new message. I glanced at the screen. It was from her. My stomach clenched, and I hesitated before opening it. Her words were a mixture of apology and defiance. "We need to talk, please. I know I screwed up, but I love you. Let's fix this." I read the message twice, then let out a slow breath. She was trying to manipulate me again, trying to pull me back in with her tears and false promises. But I wasn't buying it, not anymore. I knew what she was capable of, what she'd done. I wasn't going to be so easily fooled again. I decided to reply with a simple message. "Not now. I need some time. When I'm ready, we'll talk." I didn't want her to think I was giving up, but I also needed her to understand that I was in control now. I was the one calling the shots. A few hours later, I took a walk around the block. The cool night air helped clear my head, but the anger simmered just beneath the surface. I kept replaying the moments, her sneaking out that night, the secret hotel, her messages with Jake. The betrayal cut deep, but I refused to let it define me. I'd been betrayed, yes, but I wouldn't be a victim forever. That's when I decided I needed to go one step further. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd lost, not just the marriage, but the trust. I realized there was only one way to do that, by making her see that I was serious, that I could walk away and never look back. I went online that night and looked into a lawyer just to get some advice. I wanted to know my rights, my options. I was thinking about divorce, sure, but I also wanted her to know I was prepared for a fight. I printed out some documents, took notes, and made a plan. I wasn't rushing into anything, but I was laying the groundwork. I wanted her to feel the pressure, to start worrying about what losing me might really mean. Meanwhile, I kept the burner phone active, sending subtle hints. I'd text her things like, "You're going to regret this," or "Some secrets don't stay hidden forever." I didn't want to tip her off that I was gathering information, but I wanted her to get the message. I was watching, I was paying attention, and I was done playing nice. That night, as I finally laid in bed, I felt a strange sense of resolve. I'd been hurt, humiliated, betrayed, yet I'd also taken back some control. I might have lost some trust, but I was gaining clarity. I knew what I had to do next. The ball was in her court, and I was ready to strike. Next part. The day I finally put everything into motion felt surreal. I'd spent so many nights planning, waiting for the right moment, and now it was here. I made a few calls that morning, lawyer, a trusted friend, someone who knew how to handle the fallout. I wanted everything to be clean, precise, and above all, undeniable. I wasn't about to leave any room for her to twist or deny what she'd done. By mid-morning, I'd packed her things in a box and placed it by the door. I kept her keys, her phone, everything that connected her to my life. I also printed out all the evidence I'd collected, the hotel receipt, her emails, screenshots, and left them out where she'd see them. I wanted her to know I was serious. This wasn't some petty revenge. It was about ending the cycle of lies and betrayal once and for all. When she knocked at the door, I was already waiting. She looked nervous, her eyes darting around the room, probably realizing I'd done more than just kick her out. I opened the door slowly, keeping my face neutral but my voice firm. "It's over," I said. "Here, your stuff, take it and go." She hesitated, her mouth opening to speak, but I cut her off. "You lied, you cheated, and you used me not just for a fling, but for months." I pushed the box toward her. "You're not coming back, this is done. Don't try to call, text, or come over. I don't want to see you again." She looked at me, tears forming again, voice trembling. "Please, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to get this way. I love you." "No," I interrupted sharply. "Your actions prove otherwise. You betrayed me and I refuse to be your backup, your fallback, your doormat." I closed the door gently but firmly behind her. Her footsteps faded and I heard her call my name one last time, muffled by the door. I didn't turn back. Once she was gone, I leaned against the door for a moment, feeling the weight lift from my chest. The house was quiet again, but now it was mine. I looked around, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd lost someone I cared about deeply, but I'd gained my dignity back. I took a deep breath and looked at the evidence I'd left out. That was the final nail. She'd see it, and she'd know I'd never be fooled again. I also knew I'd need to rebuild, trust myself, trust others, and find a way to move on. It wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. Later that evening, I sat down with a glass of whiskey and reflected on what I'd learned. Trust is fragile. Once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that sometimes you have to cut your losses, stand your ground, and walk away with your head held high. The pain of betrayal cuts deep, but it can also serve as a lesson about the importance of boundaries and self-respect. Most importantly, I realized that revenge isn't about revenge at all. It's about reclaiming your power and dignity, making the person who hurt you understand that you're no longer willing to accept lies or betrayal. And if you do that honestly, with no intention of hurting anyone physically, you can start the process of healing. So, I handed over the keys, deleted her number from my phone, and started focusing on myself. It's been a hard road, but I know now that I'm better without her. Life moves on, and sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and never looking back.